of The Flash, Season 3, Episode 19, The Once and Future Flash, and as you guys know, I really have not been that excited for a Flash episode this season. I haven't really been too high on this season, as you guys know, but I was kind of interested in this episode because The Flash has shown before, when they go to alternate worlds, they really know how to utilize that quite well. Again, I always talk about one of the best episodes of this entire show is Welcome to Earth 2, just because all the different types of things they could do with the characters, the different types of intricacies those characters had from our usual counterparts. They just do a really great job of that, so I was hoping this episode would pay off, and for a while this episode did disappoint me because I felt that most of this episode was kind of boring, very slow, just a lot darker than it really should have been. It didn't really make a ton of sense. However, the ending, I think, did pay off a little bit. This was definitely a little bit better than some of the other episodes that we've had. It does seem like we're treading towards a more hopeful ground, but I could very well be wrong. Let's just get into this episode because I definitely do want to talk about it as a whole. And at home we see Barry. He realizes that he needs to travel to 2024 because, I mean, that always goes great for Barry whenever he travels to other dimensions. And he notices Iris. She's looking at a photo of her and Joe, and Iris asks Barry to promise that if Savitar kills her, that he won't let Joe spiral out of control, because we know how Joe reacted when he found out that Iris, is going to die, and Barry finally does so, but I mean, he can't really prevent that. Like, if Joe does spiral out of control, there's really nothing Barry can do. Like, he can try to keep Joe, I guess he can try to keep Joe at bay, but I don't really think he can do anything to fully make sure that Joe doesn't lose it. And he gets an alert from Star Labs, and Killer Frost then attacks Cisco, HR, and Julian with her Ice Blast. She finally confronts Julian, who insists that she doesn't want to hurt him, and as she starts to kiss him, Cisco blasts her and gets Julian out. Like, I've liked Killer Frost up to this point, but I really found a lot of this to be very unnecessary. They run down the hallway with HR and Killer Frost, and Cisco gets them into the pipeline. He seals the door behind them, and Killer Frost opens the door a few seconds later using her palm scan. And when Cisco says he doesn't want to hurt her, Flash arrives, knocks Killer Frost back. He tries to get through to Caitlin, hoping that, he was able to do this before. He's hoping he can do it now, but Killer Frost simply ignores him. She ices the door over between them and gets up before Flash can stop her, and it doesn't really seem like the Caitlin that, was before sort of had that part of Killer Frost in her. It doesn't seem like Caitlin is going to be able to manifest. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But back in the lab, Julian says that he made the right decision by removing the power suppressor, and Barry finally suggests that they take a break. He tells the others he's going to run to the future because, yeah, that's totally a good thing to do. The whole world is in chaos. You got Killer Frost on the loose. The right thing to do is to run to the future. I don't understand this at all. He wants to talk to his future self, find out who Savitar is and how to defeat him. He tells Wally to help him accelerate to the proper speed, and they go to the pipeline, and Kid Flash loans his speed to Flash, who finds himself in an alleyway in 2024. And just this whole setup I thought was so dumb. Like, this is not something that Barry would do. Like, why does he want to travel to the future? I get it that obviously he's determined to find out who Savitar is, but I mean, I just didn't really understand why Barry really wanted to do this. Like, again, you got Killer Frost who's causing all this damage. The right thing to do would stay and defeat Killer Frost first, then worry about going to the future. But, of course, this Barry just really is not thinking rationally at this point, and it's really not that surprising that this is something that Barry would decide to do, because if there's anything we've seen this season, Barry's rationalizing stuff is kind of gone. So it's 2024, and we see the Top finds him. Now, I really like Mirror Master and Top. The last time we saw them, I thought they were really good villains. Here, I just kind of found disposable. I don't know why these two were chosen to be here. I like Ashley Richards. I like the dude that plays Mirror Master, but I don't know why out of everyone, they were chosen to be the villains here. It just kind of felt weird, but she induces Vertigo on him. She points to the Flash is wearing his old costume. Mirror Master steps out a reflective surface and says that they can kick Flash's ass past like they used to. Mirror Master tells Flash he's been gone again, reminds him that it's their town now. He kicks Flash repeatedly, but Flash knocks them both away. He speeds off, and after he switches out of his costume, Barry goes to the police station and finds it abandoned, and the future Cisco then steps out of the shadows and hugs Barry, says he had a feeling that he was there, and Cisco actually hacked into the security cameras we found out, and he saw Flash fight Mirror Master and Top, and he figures that it's no accident that Barry's there. Like, obviously he's there for a reason, and Barry explains he came there for information, and then he's going back, and he promises that's how it's going to go. Like, he's only here to get information, and Cisco realizes that he's there about Savitar, and Barry asks where his future self is, and Star Labs, we find out, is actually closed, and if you could think of the darkest future possible, I mean, this pretty much sums it up. Like, I don't think it can get, you know what, Community, like, I was a fan of Community back in the day, I'm sure you guys were too, but you know that episode where they go through all these different realities and they go to the darkest timeline? This is said timeline. I mean, it cannot get more depressing than what happened here, and Cisco takes Barry there. He explains that HR went on to other things. Caitlin apparently never came back. Like, she stayed as Killer Frost forever, and I mean, probably would have been a lot better if Barry would have just actually stayed and made sure that, you know, everything was fine. I get it that time doesn't pass, or like it's only going to be a minute later once Barry returns, but I mean, it just seems like he probably could have prevented a lot of this, but Barry shut down Star Labs and the team because they were a constant reminder to him of actually what he lost, and Cisco says that he shouldn't even be there, has Barry go ahead on his own, and Barry finds his future self in the Cortex, and he could not be more emo than ever. Future Barry asks why he's there. He realizes that Barry is from before Iris died, and he tells him that he can't save Iris, and Barry says he just needs to know who Savitar is, and Future Barry tells him that he can't because he doesn't really know the answer, which makes no sense whatsoever. How the hell do you not know who Savitar is, especially after Iris was killed? How do you not know? And he advises Barry to go home, spend as much time with Iris as he can, because soon he'll never see her again, and walks off, and Barry then dons his costume. He meets with Cisco, asks him to stay because they don't have a Flash, apparently, in that world. And Flash says that he can. He speeds through the pipeline. However, the portal won't open. He realizes that he can't go back to 2017. So Barry wonders if Mirror Master and Top did something to him. And Cisco says that everyone is different except for Barry. And he explains he tried to get the team back together, but he lost his powers when Killer Frost froze his hands off. And without them, he has no vibe powers. Which, again, I mean, it's so depressing to think about. And it's just too much. Like, honestly, a lot of this story, yes, some of it does make sense, but I just found a lot of this to be way too much. Like, why does it have to be so depressing? I think that's the main problem with the season as a whole. It's been a lot darker, and darker does not mean better for this show. Barry wonders what happened to the others, and Cisco takes Barry to see the future Julie in his lab at Iron Heights, and he asks to see Caitlin, and Julian takes her to the cell where Killer Frost is confined, and she knows that he's from the past because there's no hate in his eyes, and as if he came to see what happened to his friends, and Barry blames himself for not saving her. Killer Frost says that she's glad that he failed, and she tells him that he's no match for Savitar, and realizes that Cisco actually didn't tell Barry, and Killer Frost explains that Savitar appeared to her, showed her the way, and they teamed up because he gave her the cure to her illness, embracing who she really is, and that she really was Killer Frost, and Barry realizes that she knows who Savitar is, but she refuses to tell him. So again, we got a whole thing here where we could easily find out who Savitar is, but through really stupid reason and through really dumb just through really dumb contrived, just really dumb contrived excuses, they still are refusing to tell us who Savitar is, and it's just really annoying, because at this point, we knew very well who Zoom is, we were getting into Zoom's backstory, all that stuff, and at this point, I don't give a shit who Savitar is. Like, if it hasn't been a clue to you guys, I don't give a shit who Savitar is at this point. I don't know when the show is going to tell us, but this is just really annoying that they just won't tell us who Savitar is. So Killer Frost jokingly suggests that Wally might be able to help Barry, and Barry and Cisco go to the West House, and Wally's nurse Beth answers the door. She invites him to stay as long as they like, warning that they don't have many visitors, and Wally is in a wheelchair sitting in the darkness. He's staring off into space, and Barry tries to get through to him, and Cisco explains after Iris died, Wally went after Savitar by himself, and that's totally a Wally thing to do. Like, this actually did make sense to me. Joe found him the next day with a shattered spine, and no one knows what Wally actually saw. So Barry asks where Joe is. Cisco figures that there's only one other place that he could possibly be, and Joe is at the cemetery putting flowers on Iris's grave. Barry walks up, says that he wanted to see how he was doing, and Joe wonders why he wants to know after so much time has passed, because he hasn't. For some reason, that Barry didn't want to know who Savitar was, which I just don't get at all. But he says he's doing his best. Barry asks what happened to him. Joe tells him that his children's lives were taken, and then Barry just left him, which is the complete opposite of what Iris said to do. Why wouldn't Barry honor Iris's promise? Like, if Iris died, I feel like Barry would still remember that. Like, honestly, remember, Iris told Barry to make sure Joe does not lose it, and that's exactly what Barry did. He left him there, and Barry wonders that he wasn't there for Joe. Joe wonders why Barry should start now, tells him to leave, and Barry goes to the time vault and asks Future Barry why he broke his promise to be there for Joe, and Future Barry says that he was just as broken as Joe was, and tells Barry that he will go back and will do everything he can to stop Savitar, but he will fail, and on May 23rd, Iris is going to die in Barry's arms, and it will break Barry. There'll be nothing left to stop Savitar, and Barry won't be there to help Joe, and all of this just makes this entire arc feel pointless. Like, there is no possible way to save Iris. You know, he's not going to be able to stop Caitlin from becoming Killer Frost. He's not going to be able to save Wally. One day, Barry will stop Savitar and lock him in the Speed Force forever, but at that point, Savitar will have already won. And Future Barry tells Barry to go home because there's nothing for him there, and just this whole emo Barry, I just didn't care about him, honestly. Like, everything he said to Barry, he was just saying the worst things possible, and if that actually does happen, and Iris does die, this entire season is going to feel pointless. I mean, again, he's done everything he can to try to save Iris, and if she actually does die, I mean, sure, it may be a loss, but I don't really think they're going to kill Iris, specifically because so much of this season has focused on that relationship, and the show in general has become so Barry Iris-centric that sure, maybe it will get the show back on track, but if this is the future that we're headed, I mean, I'm not interested, honestly, if this is where we're headed. But Barry goes to Cisco, tells him he needs to get back to 2017, and when Cisco says he wanted to get the team back together, Barry realized that Cisco did something to him to keep him there, and Cisco explains he has a device that destroys the resonance field that Barry creates when he runs. He explains that he misses his friend and thought Barry still had some fight in him, but he was wrong, and in the pipeline, Barry prepares to run, but then he goes back to Cisco, says he can't go back knowing what the future is. I mean, there's no way he's going to make this the foreseeable future. So it's time to get the team back together, starting with HR, and we do get this kind of fun scene where HR is reading one of his romance novels, The Jitters, to an appreciative audience, and two of the women text him. HR starts to end the reading, but Flash runs in, grabs him, takes him to Star Labs. He grabs Julian and Joe as well, and Barry says that he brought them all there. Joe realized that the Barry at the cemetery was not his Barry, and Barry says that Iris's death shouldn't have driven them away from him. It's not what she wanted, and Barry tells them that he will not abandon them. The MetaHuman app goes off. Cisco says that they have a chance to put some hope back in their lives, and all they really need, and they all really need it. So after a moment, they agree and join hands, and I'm not gonna lie, these last few minutes of this episode is a lot better than what the first two halves were. Like, the last 10 or 15 minutes really does make up for a lot of the dreary, depressing nature that most of this episode presented. So Mirror Master and Top are robbing a jewelry store. Flash confronts them, and at Star Labs, the others start the lab up. Meanwhile, Top uses her power on Flash, and Mirror Master pulls down the nearby mirror front of a building. Cisco used the resonance device to duplicate the resonance field from the villain's power, negating their powers. When they wonder how they'll get it to Barry, Future Barry comes in, tells him to give it to him. Cisco then tosses it to him. Future Barry then speeds off, and Future Flash then speeds to the alley. He pulls Flash free and tells Flash they can't go anywhere Mirror Master goes, and the villains run in different directions. Future Flash captures Top, and meanwhile, Flash uses the device to follow Mirror Master into a window, knocks him out, and later the news reporting the sighting of two Flashes, and at Star Labs, the team watches as a newscaster said, "It's good to see Flash again." Future Barry warns that they have a way to go, especially him, and agrees with Barry that Iris would have wanted them to stay a family. So he apologized for breaking his promise, says if they're willing to be a family again, then so can he, and Joe hugs his Flash. Julian and HR say that they're in. They go to get coffee with Joe. Future Barry warns Barry that he wishes that he could help him. Barry then asks how he trapped Savitar in the Speed Force, and Future Barry explains that there was this physicist named Tracy Brand. Now, I'm thinking we're going to get introduced to this character soon, Tracy Brand, but she made the Speed Force trap for him. However, she didn't figure out the technology until 4 years after Iris died. So this is like way in the future, we just realized. Like, this is like many years after, and Future Barry gives Barry a thumb drive with all the information. He hopes that Tracy can decipher it for him when he goes back, and he tells Barry to make some good memories with Iris while he can, and hold on to them, and they then shake hands, and I like the way this ended. I did. I like that Barry did try to provide some hope here, that he actually did end up helping Future Barry. I thought that was actually really well done. But knowing Barry, I feel like this is going to turn out a lot worse than he thinks it does. Because it seems like whenever Barry tries to change things in a good way, it always seems to have some sort of consequence. And there's always some sort of bigger thing that he just did not realize, and I hope that's not the case here. I'm hoping that Barry actually did do a good thing by helping them. But later, Barry and Cisco go to the pipeline. Barry promises he'll fix Cisco's arms, and they hug, and Barry returns seconds after he left, as he predicted, and he tells Kid Flash that it worked. He tells the others what he learned, and I actually really did like this ending. He says they need to find Caitlin before she's lost to them forever. Joe goes to put out an APB on her, and Barry goes after him, hugs him, says that he loves him. He promises no matter what happens, will always be there for Joe. Joe says he knows and leaves, and it seems that Barry is going to try to make sure none of this actually does happen. He turns to see Iris watching. He tells her he's keeping the promise that he made to her, and Killer Frost then finds Savitar, and I thought that was overall a good scene that he said, you know, I'm going to keep this promise to you. But then we get to the ending, and this ending really pissed me off, I'm not gonna lie. Killer Frost finds Savitar waiting for her. He says he's offering her what she desires, which is salvation. He assures her that he wants to make sure Caitlin never returns, and when Killer Frost wonders why she should trust her, Savitar removes his armor, reveals who he really is. Killer Frost asks what he needs to do, but of course, right when we're about to see who Savitar is, that is when the episode ends. In typical Flash fashion, we still don't know who the hell Savitar is, and let's just get in this episode and where the hell we're gonna go from here. So overall, guys, I, as usual, was not a huge fan of this episode initially. The first two halves of this episode were just very depressing, unnecessarily depressing in my opinion. Like, you didn't need to make every character have the worst future possible. Sure, things seemed like they were going well for HR, but we just didn't really see a lot of that. Wally being catatonic, I mean, I can understand that. I think that definitely is something that Wally would do. Joe basically being very angry at Barry for just neglecting him just does not seem like something Barry would do. Like, why would Barry do that to Joe? They didn't really give a reason why Barry didn't keep his promise to Iris. Like, they didn't really give that reason. I get it that Barry was obviously crushed with what happened, but it just didn't seem like something that Barry would really do. And then Cisco's arms being iced off by Killer Frost, I mean, that's just taking it way too far. For me, the first two halves of this episode were very depressing, and I just wasn't really into it, because like I said, the Flash shouldn't be this depressing. That's more Arrow's nature. The Flash is supposed to be that fun show. In the first season, it was that fun show. Sure, it had some really depressed, emotional moments to it, for sure, but the season in general, I think, has definitely been way too dark. So I did like at the end of the episode, it does seem like we're going in a more hopeful direction. Like, Barry's realizing, oh shit, we actually do need to save Killer Frost. We need to get Caitlin back. I mean, it's something I think he should have realized immediately, but at least he is starting to come through. At least it seems that way. It seems like Barry is realizing what they actually need to do here, and I'm hoping moving forward that this is something that Barry does decide to do. Like, they actually do successfully save Caitlin. I do hope that does happen, because Savitar clearly is trying to show her that there is no Caitlin, that Killer Frost is really who she is, and I'm hoping that Barry is able to get Killer Frost back. I'm hoping that that does happen. I mean, get Caitlin back. I'm hoping that that does happen. We'll have to see the way that all plays out. Is Barry really going to keep his promise to Iris? I mean, I hope he does, definitely. But as far as this future, is this future possible? I mean, I think Barry thinks that he's completely erased that future. But as we've known with Barry before, whatever he does seems to kind of bite him in the ass and always seems to sort of make him regret what he did in the first place. And I feel like this really isn't going to change anything. Like, things are just going to be worse for Barry than he actually thought they were. So I don't really know what's going to happen with that. I just think things are going to get a lot worse because that's kind of been the recurring theme of this season is, you know, Barry time traveling is really the villain of this show. Whatever he seems to do, that has been more of a villain than Savitar, honestly. Like, I've liked what we've gotten to Savitar. Like I said, when we've seen Savitar on screen, he honestly is pretty badass. I like what we've seen of him. But at this point, I don't give a shit who Savitar is. I really don't. I know we find out in the next episode, but I just don't care. I really don't. I don't care who Savitar is because the show keeps teasing us over and over again that, oh, you're going to find out who Savitar is. Oh, you're going to find out. So I just don't really care at this point. I honestly don't. So we'll have to see when we do find out who Savitar is. I guess it'll be rewarding, but like I said, at this point, we knew very well who Zoom was, and we were into his backstory. In this last half of the season, we should already know who Savitar is. We should be on the quest to defeating him. The fact that we don't know is just ridiculous. I can't believe the show has not told us who Savitar is yet. I mean, people think The Walking Dead teases you a lot. This show teases more than anything. I mean, I've not seen a show tease a villain reveal more than this show has this season. It's so annoying that they just won't finally just reveal who Savitar is. Like, honestly, stop hiding it. I don't care, honestly. Whoever it is, just reveal who Savitar is. And I'm interested in seeing how that all goes down. But as far as Tracy Brand, I'm guessing we're going to meet this character very soon because she seems like she's the key to stopping Savitar. You know, she gave Barry that device to stop him. So I'm hoping it does go well. I'm hoping that future Barry doesn't make things worse for Barry. But we'll have to see the way that all goes down. And as far as Killer Frost, is there a way to save Caitlin? We'll have to see the way that all plays out, I guess. Overall, guys, this definitely was a better episode than I thought it was going to be. I think there was definitely some stuff that made a lot of sense, like why Wally was catatonic, why Caitlin did turn into Killer Frost. A lot of this stuff didn't make sense. I just felt like it was a lot more depressing than it really needed to be. They could have easily made at least one of the characters not have the most depressing future possible, but it seems like that's what their goal was, so Barry could prevent this future. But I feel like knowing Barry, he's just going to kind of make things worse, because Barry always has a tendency to do that. But in the end, I definitely enjoy this episode more than some of the others that we've had. But that doesn't mean by much. It's mainly only because of the third act that I enjoy this episode more than some of the others. And I am going to give The Flash Season 3, Episode 19, The Once and Future Flash, a 3 out of 5 or a C+. For guys, maybe this episode of The Flash, the most guys saw this episode overall, loved your thoughts on it. Like I said, I know we're going to find out who Savitar is very soon. I don't know how that's all going to play out, but we'll have to see what happens here. At this point, I'm just glad that we're finally getting that reveal. It just feels like it's been such a long time coming, and they've just been prolonging it all season that I'm just happy that we're finally going to get to it. But let me know what you guys saw this episode, loved your thoughts on it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for this week's episode of The Flash, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.